Hi, this is Kid, and Operation Bad. This is my deck, Variation. If you don't like it, well, that's an opinion, and I don't care for those. So, let's start with something simple. This is a Fabled deck, so it's going to run the most basic Fabled card ever imagined, possibly. I run 2 Fabled Ravens, because I don't believe in a dead draw. Fabled Raven, having 2 is an optimum number. If you got 3, go ahead and put it in. If not, well, then you got 2. It's good enough. Yeah, that's a good start. Okay, I run 2 Kushanos, again, with the dead draw thing. Drawing a Kushano is a dead draw. It's easy to get in the grave if you run Foolish Burial or something. If you run the Pegasus, that will work too. Just getting him in the graveyard is optimum. He is your combo card. I run 3 Fabled Cruce because it is just ridiculous. When it's discarded from the hand, you can special summon level 4 Fabled from the grave to the field. So that helps with everything you do. I run 3 Fabled Grimro. If you control a Fabled on the field, you can discard this to get a Fabled from your deck to your hand. So it's basically Rhoda just for Fableds. Doesn't matter what you need, it'll get it. I run 3 The Fabled Mizuchi. They're a little bit different because the other ones you saw were all fiends. These are beasts. Thereby, if you're planning to run Solidarity with this build, it's not going to work, so don't go there. For this effect, you discard a Fabled from your hand to special summon it. Since most Fableds have a discard effect when you discard them, they will kick off and it'll help with your combo. Afterwards, you're able to special summon a level 2 Fabled from your hand, which is usually a tuner, and there are plenty of Fableds that you can get out with just that simple combo. I run 3 The Fabled Ganasha. Again, another beast. This one is pretty great for any kind of turbo deck for this. When it's discarded, it's special summoned to the field, and it gains 200 attack. But when it's removed from the field, it gets removed from play, so if you got a way to get them back, like the burial from a different dimension, that's helpful to get them back in your deck somehow. That'll help out. I run 3 The Fabled Cerebral. This one has the most basic effect of all the rest I've seen. It's just when discarded, special summon it. It's level 2 tuner. It is basically your main tuner for this deck. More main than Raven. I run 1 The Fabled Chawa. I would run 2, but I only own 1, so sorry about that. I run 1 just the Fabled Lurie, because he's my favorite Fabled. I wouldn't have built this deck without him. And last, and especially not least, the only not Fabled in this deck, Morphing Jar, because it's Morphing Jar. It doesn't need its explanation. Alright, we're moving on to spells. There will be plenty of them. Basic stuff. My Monster Reborn to Monster Reborn. I play 1 Upstart Goblin because this deck able to swarm easy, inflict a lot of damage. What's 1,000 extra points gonna hurt? Magical Mallet. This is just for me because my luck is 0. So I always draw the absolute worst hand, but luckily I do draw Magical Mallet, so I get a second chance. Card Destruction. Pretty simple. Discard your hand, draw the same amount of cards. Discard being the key term of that description. Monster Reincarnation. With this, it's a bit more tricky for your effects, because this is a cost effect, so your discard abilities with the effects kicking off will not work with this. So that's something I had to work your way around. I recommend using Kushano because he is the greatest cost card in the deck. I like to make a little fun for my deck, so I played Question. I went to a tournament today, and this just didn't fail. It didn't fail once. It was great. Because this deck runs so fast and it's so confusing, they don't have time to remember what you played. A Feather of the Phoenix. Decent card. Discard a card to return a card from the graveyard back to the deck. If you know what the Fabled Reagan does, he lets you... This will help out a lot for what you need to get down. Dark Hole, for Dark Hole reasons. I run 2 Mystical Space Typhoons because I don't have a lot of back row destruction for this deck, so getting 2 is nice. 2 Pot of Arvice, because if I pronounce that wrong, then whatever. I know I probably am. But this deck is able to get a lot of cards in the grave really quickly, so this helps out. The key number for this deck is 2, so yeah, that helps out a lot. I run 2 enemy controllers. You could run Book of Moon. You could run something else that stops an attack. So if you wanted like some traps, my variation, I don't run traps for a reason you'll see in a minute. But that helps out for stopping. Last in the deck, not the extra deck though, is the traps. Here's the reason. I run 3 Royal Decrees. I'm not a trap fan, if you cannot tell. Royal Decree stops all other traps, which is nice. And the only trap that I run other than that is Mirror Force, because you could almost always get off Mirror Force. Even if they stop it, you gotta wait to stop attack. It's not usually a dead draw. Alright, next is my extra deck. It's pretty standard stuff. I run 3 Fabled Reagan. If you want to know the best joke for this card, remember Ronald Reagan. But when this card is Synchro Summoned and you have less than 2 cards in your hand, you can draw till you have 2. This is the key card in your deck. You will constantly pull him up using your Ganasha and your Cerebral. Keep level 5ing, keep drawing, keep the combo going. Three Fabled Leviathan. When this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard by any means necessary, you can return 3 Fabled monsters from your graveyard and add them to your hand. What I usually do with this card is to return 1 Raven and 2 Cruce, because without doubt you'll probably have a Grimro in the graveyard, so you can just constantly loop this card using those 3. I only run 1 the Fabled Valkyrus because there are plenty other level 8s in the world that you could be using, but since he is something that'll help you stepstone up to Leviathan if you need it, he's also a good drawer. When you can discard a Fiend to draw a card, and since this is a discard deck, it helps with any effects. I run 1 the Fabled Unicorn. This card is tricky to do, but Fableds have complete and utter hand control, so if you play them right, you should be able to optimize this effect. When you and your opponent have the same amount of cards in their hand, you can negate the activation of their monster effects, spells, and traps, and destroy them. It's pretty helpful for going in for a final kill. Fabled Kudabi. This is your stall. When you have 0 cards in your hand, which if you need to is easily done, he cannot be destroyed by battle or by card effects, so he can get people upset extremely. Stardust for Stardust reasons. If you don't know what this does, and unless you're new, then look it up. It's probably something you should run in a deck. Chaos King Archfiend. It's one of the few level 7s I have, but he's really easy to get out and can change a battle, for me, that is, pretty easily. When he attacks, it switches your opponent's monster's attack and defense, so it can help against those high defenders or high attackers. Black Rose for Black Rose. Brio for Brio. Mistworm pop 3. Trishula, remove 1 from every location. And this is stuff you should know if you don't. So that's just my deck.
Good deal.
Hope you liked it. My thumb is now in your face.